We've got a great show for you here in just a second. Somebody I wanted to talk to since I saw her story and a tweet yesterday over the McKinney Islamic Association trying to expand their mosque, expand their facilities. Raucous, massive amount of people showing up, good, bad, ugly, both sides. And it's in all of our press today. It was in all of our press last night. If you live in North Texas, you know all about this. So we're going to talk to Texas Scorecard reporter Erin Anderson, who I followed for a while. She really covers a lot of the North Texas stuff, and she really knows not only about what happened in McKinney, but the biggest thing is what can we do? A lot of people ask me that. What can we do? And I know there's things that I've done and I've led with you and with the Three Musketeers, as I call them, Marco Hunter Lopez, his father, and Kyle Marcos Lopez and Kyle Katie Sims in getting that disgraced former principal from Wiley East High School, where professional Islamic proselytizers were allowed into a school and passing out Qurans, hijabs, and Sharia pamphlets, which is unbelievable. Things can be done. We have done them. But this one could be different, and we need to know what we can do, what we can't do, and what really happened and the fallout. For example, the mayor, the former mayor of McKinney, George Fuller, wrote a scathing, nastygram column to all the people that showed up trying to stop this mosque from expanding and such. We'll give you those details. I'll give you those details in just a minute. And then we're going to get into Epic City is back in the crosshairs in the news today in the Dallas Express. I also got Talarico. Talarico, it's amazing on Talarico's voter registration stuff. Talarico has been hit with investigations that look bad on him by the Texas Tribune, which is very liberal, and ProPublica, which is very liberal, on his living arrangements when he was allegedly voting from his house, which was actually his mom's house or something. You have to hear about the latest on that. All that's coming up next. But first, this show is brought to you by IRSprob.com. That's IRSP.com, helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategies. Randy's been my CPA for over 10 years, and he's incredible. I'll be meeting with him tomorrow. All right, let's bring on, without any further ado, let's bring on Erin Anderson, longtime journalist at Texas Scorecard. Erin, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Chris, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I told you a little earlier when we were talking off the air that I really have admired your work from not too far away. I live in North Texas, too, and it really does seem to me for Texas Scorecard, a very conservative publication that I love and check every day, that you kind of seem to handle really the North Texas region for Texas Scorecard. Is that right?
Well, that is right. And I actually live in Collin County. I'm not a McKinney resident. This issue is not a personal one for me or a personal vote for me, but I have covered McKinney goings on and all the surrounding cities as well. So I know a lot of people in this area. I know a lot of people are very interested, very concerned here. And, we would just want to give them good, solid information that they can use, if and when they're going to, go like they did Tuesday night to go confront their government elected officials and let them know what they want.
Yes. In fact, I'm going to show a few pieces of video clips that were from the event itself from Kaylee Campbell, kind of a friend of my show, friend of her show. Here's a few pieces to show how many people were there. Okay, it's kind of quiet, but nonetheless, I'm showing folks what it looked like. It was definitely a very large, big-time campaign of folks showing up. There's the McKinney mayor, who is assaulted by a lady. There's no other way to say it. In that video, I'm just pointing right there. Even though there's no audio on it, I don't know why. I'm not a tech guy, but it happens sometimes. So, Erin, you were there for a big chunk of the meeting, right?
Yes, I was. So I showed up, well before the meeting.
You're breaking up a little bit, Erin. Can you hear me okay? Hold on one second. Can you hear me, Erin? Might need to call her back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, gotcha. You were out for a second there. Okay, go ahead. So you were at the meeting there, right? For
so I was at the meeting. Mm-hmm. The city hall completely filled up. They have an overflow space in their new city hall building there that holds like another 100 people. That filled up. So they had people in the lobby and outside. queued up, very interested to hear. And a lot of them, the estimate was about 150 people who actually spoke. And the mayor said like 100 more put in written comment cards on this topic. And on both sides of the topic, let's be clear, this was not 100% people simply opposed to this new mosque for this group that's been around almost 30 years in the city.
Really?
In a smaller facility. They're not new to town. And so I think that's news to a lot of people. A lot of people weren't really aware of them. Also, what people, maybe everybody doesn't remember, but a lot of people that live right in that neighborhood do. This came about before planning and zoning in 2024. The McKinney Islamic Association, that group that owns the property, they put forward a site plan in 2024 for a much bigger mosque. They were asking for a rezoning of the property, which would have been required for that size of building.
Right.
And that's why it went to a public hearing. And in fact, the Planning and Zoning Committee, chaired at the time by Bill Cox, now Mayor Bill Cox, said, no, this plan is too big for this property. We're not approving that. Well, what happened over the past 2 years, they went back. All this time, they've been reworking their plan to have smaller buildings, to fit the current zoning of the property. And so when it came back to the city, they didn't need to have a public hearing because they aren't asking to rezone the property this time. They aren't asking for what they call variances. They're building according to the rules for the property when they bought it. And therefore, it was just sort of an automatic, and people say a rubber stamp. Why didn't they listen to us? It's because they literally were not required to here. And in fact, the requirement of the city ordinance says, you have to approve it unless you find some valid reason in the law.
So they were looking, Erin, the McKinney Mosque was looking to go, and I'm going to make sure I got this right here. This is actually from your story. They were looking to go from the plans include that were just approved by a 7-0 vote, which is pretty surprising for those who disagree with this. The plan was to they approved 15,000 square foot mosque, 10,000 square foot classroom building, 7,000 square foot gym. And like you said earlier, the 2024 plan, 40,000 square foot mosque. My gosh, that seems like it would be unbelievably massive, right? I mean, this is almost a third of the size that they tried to get 2 years ago, right?
Well, right. The original one, I mean, Bill Cox said it at the time, it's too big. The thing you want here is too big. And so, and here's the thing. So planning and zoning, the rule, it's not like they all fell in line and voted 7-0. The rules were you must approve it. So there wasn't like there was discussion about it. That's why it was unanimous, because the way the code is written, it says in fact, most plans, in fact, people do read the article I put up, the information that the city administrators provided on Tuesday night after 4 hours of testimony from the public, and they were, of course, more than welcome to do that. But they presented kind of their process, and they said, look, most of the site plans that come before the city are approved what they call administratively. They don't go to planning and zoning in the city as long as they meet, they check the boxes and meet the requirements for the zone that their property is in. And of course, that's to prevent somebody in the planning office saying, oh, that's, I don't like that guy. Well, let's just deny his plan because we don't like him, right? Or we want some other business to go in there. So it's to keep it kind of fair. And that was the way it was going in to Tuesday night's meeting. They said, look, we don't have a choice at this stage in this process, which is the very first stage. There's a lot of other things that will have to be presented and reviewed and meet specifications.
Here's your tweet that really made me want to have you on. And some people were going after you for this, but the truth is the truth. And that's why I really appreciated what you said, because I don't want the mosque there. I don't want the mosque expanding. I don't support the I am extraordinarily concerned that we may one day become like Europe, where you've got grooming gangs, you've got no-go zones, Islamic no-go zones. You got Jews with the yarmulkes on being harassed, intimidated, or worse yet, beaten, and all sorts of stuff. Or women can't walk around dressed like a average European woman would do without getting catcalled, harassed, sexually harassed, or even worse, groped or something. And that's a big concern with a lot of us, and also the Sharia law stuff. It's a very serious concern. But you wrote this last night on your tweet, seeing a lot of assumptions that McKinney City Council members are not listening to or representing their constituents. Which, all caps, constituents should they listen to? Last night's meeting included mosque supporters as well as opponents. Opposition is not a majority opinion citywide. A couple things, and again, you already covered the fact that the city council, I mean, they could have voted no, right? But then I assume the mosque, since this wasn't a variance hearing to change the way it's been allowed to, that lot, I assume they could have voted no, but then I assume the mosque could have had a great suit if they couldn't prove that why they were denied if it didn't have to do with the law, right?
Right, that's exactly right. And again, I don't fault the people that live there for feeling blindsided, because 2 years ago they got a chance to talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they were surprised. They thought, gosh, shouldn't it come back around to us again?
I see. To
get a hearing on this new presentation that you can have our input. And they're like, no, that was a different situation because they were asking for this variance. I mean, what most McKinney residents don't know is that these things get administratively approved all the time. They don't hear about it. But they happen to hear about it, and they felt like they just thought the process would be the same, and that's why they thought they were getting shortchanged.
Right.
And those were the people that live in the neighborhood and have those concerns. Now, what you just raised, the other set of concerns, which people can complain, but these are valid concerns that people have based on actual things that happen, not just in foreign countries, although quite a bit there,
right?
But in cities across the country.
Yes,
and so people are raising those concerns.
And Muslim nations and how they govern with Sharia law and mistreating women horribly and treating them as second-class citizens and stuff. So it's legitimate concerns they have about Islam and the spread of it. But you were going to say?
But this was not on the agenda Tuesday night. This simply was not a consideration at this stage in the process that was going to change the outcome of this vote. And so people were like, well, you didn't listen, because why did we come here and speak? And well, honestly, the article I wrote 2 weeks before explained exactly what was going to happen. And people didn't like that. And I was like, I'm not telling you don't go and,
right.
air your grievances to government,
right.
Say the things that you need to say, but understand that this particular point in this particular process is not up to a public vote.
Right.
People get to build something that's compliant on the property that they own, regardless of if the public doesn't like it. I don't get a veto over my neighbor's property because I don't own it.
Unless it violates the variances or
right.
the ordinances, which this didn't, because they already had tried to do it the way they wanted to. They were disapproved 2 years ago. They came back. They worked apparently with the city to try to make sure it would pass. So there was no question because they weren't misusing the variances or the allotment for the land.
Correct.
Go ahead. Anything else?
But people wanted assurances because there had not been a public hearing because it wasn't required on this type of
right.
a situation. And so that was part of the process Tuesday night, is the city like, look, we're basically going to go through the things we would have kind of reviewed had this required a hearing, so you can see that we did actually look at these things and check these boxes and ensure that it meets the planned zoning requirements situation. And there's a neighborhood on one side of the street and commercial on the other side of the street. That's just the way it works.
Erin,
and,
I think I may have read something that you followed up, because some people were being nasty on Twitter for X for telling the truth about this. That it was not up for debate about approving or denying it, because it's a simple legal thing, that not an opinion or a taking sides thing. I think I saw you maybe say also that somewhere around, and if it's not you, obviously you'll correct me, 20% of the residents of McKinney, I think, are foreign born. Is that accurate?
That was not me that said it, so
Okay.
I'm not going to
Okay.
vouch for
Okay.
for that specific
Okay.
number.
hmm
It certainly is not out of the realm of possibility. What I did say, what you said before, is that I don't think it's a majority opinion that people don't that people oppose this mosque, and I say that people are like, oh no, it definitely is. It's like it may be the people that you know. But obviously, a lot of the people in the council chamber Tuesday night did not agree with that. Obviously, these people have been in this community, like I said, for almost 30 years.
I did not know that. Yeah.
Nobody. I don't think there's been a protest outside their mosque before.
Interesting.
I get that people's awareness and what things that are more current events are are putting these things at the fore of people's minds, but. McKinney is not a conservative city. Let's not pretend it's a big conservative bastion.
Right.
It's just not. The voters in the city elected this current council, who, while they were spot on because their own city laws say this is what you must do at this stage of the process, and they did it. I, for one, do not want to encourage my city officials to break their own laws when they feel like it. So, but they also, they were not opposed to the mosque. Not that their personal opinion doesn't get to dictate whether or not they follow the law, right?
Right.
But it was very clear before, and certainly after the vote after Tuesday night, they are not. It's not like, oh, we wish we could, but our hands are tied by the law.
They're not even saying that. No, they're not even saying that.
I'm like, that's not. Yes, their hands are tied, but it's not that. Oh, if they weren't, they'd be super opposed to this.
Because they wouldn't.
That's not the case at all. Justice Beller gave a very impassioned speech about how these are his good friends, and people were horrible to suggest that they shouldn't be part of the community, et cetera, et cetera.
Who was that? Was that former Mayor George Fuller? Is that who you said, or somebody else?
This is Justin Beller, current council member.
Okay.
Who was elected last year without even an opponent.
Wow.
So the suggestion that these people are not popular and their positions are not popular, I don't agree with that. So now there's talk of people recalling.
Yes, and that's where people can have a remedy here.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can elect the seven city council members and throw out the current ones legally, lawfully, get them the hell out of there, get in a whole new round of 7 new city councilors that will make it hard for the growth of Islam or the growth of mosques to expand. That's lawful, that's legal. And so that's one of the questions I had for you is, what remedies can people do that are opposed to this mosque or the growth of these mosques, especially when you tie it in with Epic City, which we'll talk about with you in a minute, and other Islamist type things that are exclusionary or exclusive that are not legal.
Right. Well, I made this comment too somewhere that look, city council isn't really the venue for these discussions. They're not in a position to do some of the things that people are wanting. It's just not. Like somebody opposed it. Once your site plan comes to city council, you're past that point.
Your phone was breaking up just a second, Erin. I'll stand by for a minute. Yeah, there you go. You're back now. Your phone was down for a second. Go ahead.
I don't know what's going on there. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. It's only happened a little bit here.
Technology is grand. But so obviously we had a federal and a state official there at the meeting. Congressman Keith Self and State Rep Carissa Richardson, who are McKinney residents and are representatives of the residents there.
Right.
So they each brought up different points. But not that their issues were on the table at that moment,
right?
But it's sort of to point out that there are other levels where people can address concerns that weren't right there in City Hall, but that's not necessarily the only place,
right?
But the city level though that we talked about that obviously people are talking about already. This replacing the current crop of representatives through either elections, of course, are the main way we influence that, or if we can't wait 4 years, then this recall situation, it's a big lift.
But if they want to do it,
of people,
if they want to do it,
I wouldn't discourage them to doing it.
Right.
But it's like, no, understand that it's not easy, and you're going to go knock on the door of the same people that 1 year ago chose all these people, and say, well, the city did. They did something they were required to do. They followed their own law. Let's throw those bums out. You know what I'm saying? So
and it's fine. It's fine to do what you want to do.
They have a different approach to it, but it's on other levels. It's a matter of some of the things, and you mentioned Epic City. So there's other things that people have done. I mean, it wasn't successful at this point as far as the property meeting the specifications as required.
Right.
But they haven't started building yet. There's going to be. I mean, they're going to have to. For the people that are concerned that they're going to run amok and not really follow it, they have to get approved on each level, each point in the process as they, get permitted and so forth. And that's something that, go ahead.
Well, before we get to Epic City, though, I wanted to ask a few more questions. Now, it's interesting you talk about Mayor Bill Cox, Mayor of McKinney. I have not seen him make any statements. And we know that about the whole McKinney Mosque thing. I know that that the city manager, I don't know if you caught this, it came out exclusively from the Dallas Express this afternoon. The city manager of McKinney wrote a letter to all city employees and said he was, quote, disgusted by some at the mosque meeting. He said sometimes mob-like behavior, sometimes downright vile. Personally, I was disgusted with those who try to use their own faith to attack or belittle another. And by the way, it's okay to say, and I'm just inserting this part, it's okay to say I'm a Christian and Islam is not an authentic faith. You're not going to heaven if you're, Islamic, and to criticize it. So he shouldn't be telling anybody that just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you should criticize Islam. He says, while free speech is a fundamental tenet of our First Amendment, so is the freedom to worship one's faith. He also said, finally, to the city staff of all faiths, and particularly to our team members who are from the Islamic faith, you are welcome here. Here's the problem with this: city managers, Erin, are not. While it is a political position per se, city managers doing this kind of crap. This is a politician, not a city manager here, isn't it? Acting like that.
Well, city managers, wield, quite a lot of power.
Right.
I will say, in his defense, there were some obnoxious people there, and I'm not criticizing people for what they say.
Right,
you are free to say what you want,
but how?
But they were extremely loud, extremely, a lot, like between every speaker, loud yelling, loud booing, and it slowed things down. I will say to Mayor Cox's, to his management, he said probably 100 times, can we please keep it down, keep some decorum so we can keep moving, because when you're loud, it stops the whole proceedings. They had 150 people to get through. It's like, please stop having 15 30 seconds of shouting between each speaker. You're slowing it down.
Let me take that with you and buttress what you're saying, because let's flip it. Let's go to the other side of the Metroplex in Tarrant County, where we had these radical leftist people intentionally going nuts, being loud, being raucous, picking up the microphone and turning around when they're not supposed to. And Tim O'Hare, the judge for Tarrant County, basically threw everybody out and said, you're going to come in one at a time if you're supposed to speak. The rest of you stay outside. And then they were chanting from outside. I'm sure you saw all that. And so that's them taking over a city council or a county commissioners meeting for a political agenda, and that's not okay to hijack it. So, I mean, I guess if we flip it, there's an example that just happened.
Well, those are kind of, it's two extremes of, clearing the room and then, asking nicely 100 times, but never doing anything. Honestly, it's like the mom that says, I'm going to stop this car.
Yes.
I will tell you, at one point in the evening, I was like, Mayor, please stop this car. Just throw one out just to kind of show you're serious, because it wasn't. I mean, at some point, it's not helpful. It's not, just free speech. It's not respectful, and you're dragging it out. You're not letting people. There were older people. It was getting late for them. It's like you're delaying everyone who wants to speak, even the people whose point of view you agree with are being delayed because you want to basically holler.
Let me share something
really
with you.
Loud.
Let me share something with you that's really cool. I think you really like, and it's really intimate and personal. Okay, so with the Wiley East High School, with the 4 professional Islamic proselytizers allowed to go in, with a CARE affiliated group. CARE is a designated terrorist organization by Texas, by the UAE, and by Florida. And I went to the school board meeting and spoke out, and that's when I met and started to become friends with Marco Hunter Lopez and his father Marcos Lopez. I know you know him, and Marcos is on our watching right now. And Marcos said Erin Anderson is an amazing journalist, and I would agree. We became close, and that first day though, when I barely knew them, Marco Hunter Lopez, the young man who's just amazing, who exposed the whole thing in Wiley East, he was sitting next to me. He gave me a seat next to him, and this kid at the time was 15. Now he's 16, and I was being a little bit myself, which could be a little bit pugnacious, might not be the word, abrasive, or I don't know, be a little bit being a little vocal. And it wasn't anywhere near what happened in McKinney's city council meeting last night, or was it the night before? But it's not. It wasn't that level, but it was maybe half of that, maybe 3/4 of it. I don't know. And Marco put his hand on my knee or whatever, and he said, gave me a gentle rebuke, and it was perfect. And I literally chillaxed. But this kid knows what that 15-year-old, now 16-year-old kid who's going to be a superstar. He knows about decorum and having a searing, powerful message against Islamization in North Texas, but doing it and how you do it, like you're saying, is respectful. I was floored. Your comments on that, but also I want to throw this in. I was floored that this elderly lady assaulted former Mayor George Fuller, who I'm not a fan of, and he's definitely a leftist in my eyes. But she assaulted him. I mean, that's insane. Go ahead and tell me your thoughts on all this.
Well, my thought on that is I'm not interested really in elevating, former Mayor Fuller and his drama, because you notice that made the front page of the Dallas Morning News,
yes.
Not anybody else's issues. But
yes.
Suddenly it's about him.
Here it is.
So
Here it
I
is.
felt it was very performative.
Right here. I'm holding up the headline.
I don't know what got that lady's. What bee got in her bonnet that she thought she should, smack him with her sign or whatever it was. But to me, that was just like a few of the other kind of performative antics, more so than people with serious concerns. I mean, look, there are longtime McKinney residents who have homes in this lovely neighborhood that's right across from that area. Mm-hmm. Again, that's what they're concerned about, just like they were 2 years ago when that plan came forward. They felt blindsided. They wanted to have input. They didn't understand why they didn't. And I will say this, Gary Feltus was very gracious in talking about that she plans to continue, talking with those residents and with as the development goes forward to ensure and make sure their concerns are addressed about all of those issues that they brought forward, to the extent possible. But you can't.
We're losing you a little bit again. Can you hear me, Erin? We lost you a little bit. I know when we do lose you, you come right back on a few seconds later. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
There
okay.
You go. You're back.
Good.
Can we pause
to say that people
have
real people in the neighborhood have legitimate concerns, regardless of who the owners of the property is, just about the size of that development and the impact it's going to have, on their daily lives in a place that they've lived for many years. And so hopefully the city was serious and about continuing to aid those people, for the quality of life issues that they they feel they're going to have when you have a large new development with a lot of traffic. And before all the traffic, it's going to be the construction and all that, right?
Yep.
So,
Erin, can you stand by for a second? I got to do a quick timeout, and then when we come back, I'm going to ask you about this George Fuller writing this column in the Dallas Morning News, like you're talking about, making it all about him. But first, I want to say this. This show is brought to you by IRSprob.com. That's IRSprob.com, helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategy. Randy Martin has been my CPA, and IRSprob.com has been my CPA and my team for 10 years. Here's Randy, me, George, and Ray 10 years ago. Here's Randy speaking out to the students at UT Austin, his alma mater, the best school for accountancy in the state of Texas. Randy has been my tax planner, like I said, for 10 years. But let me tell you, this past year was my first year where I went from WBAP to be a solo artist, if you will, filling in all of the country from this great studio, including for Mark Davis. I'll do it again in a few more weeks for Mark, and all over the country and networks. And I'm going to be doing SiriusXM satellite radio too shortly, and my podcast. So the results are astounding. Randy is an amazing CPA, even if you just want a good tax planner. If you have somebody that lost their life, passed away, and there's tax problems, if you have a business there's tax problems or personal, go to irsprob.com or call 214-214-3000. That's 214-214-3000 and tell them Chris Crock sent you. My plumber and my foundation company is the foundation company and plumbing business that Jim Dutton from Texas Home Improvement in Dallas, Fort Worth, in Houston, in Texas, in Austin, on TV and radio. Jim Dutton owns Due West. It's a multi-generational family business, started in the 70s, and there is no better. Here they are working on my house just this past week. There they are working on my T&P valve, I think it's called, temperature and pressure valve, replacing it because they go bad after about 7-8 years. Mine did. Here they are snaking my line and fixing a clog. It was a twofer visit, a twofer. So there they are, and they did an amazing job as always. So if you want the best plumber, the best foundation, they also do concrete leveling. They do retention walls, obviously plumbing, root shields to protect your foundation from roots going underneath, grading, you name it, they do it. Go to du-west.com. That's du-west.com, or call 972-406-0912, 972-406-0912, and tell them Chris Crock sent you. Let's get back with Erin Anderson from Texas Scorecard, just to kind of reset the table. Erin is a veteran journalist here in North Texas. She's a fantastic journalist for Texas Scorecard, a conservative publication that I'm a big supporter of. And she covered the meeting with McKinney and the mosque that got approved to go forth with their building and expanding their mosque. She made a great point that I didn't know about. The mosque has been there for 30 years. They had a much smaller footprint, apparently. They tried to have a massive footprint 2 years ago. They were denied by the city of McKinney. This time, they worked apparently within the law to have it done. The only question at the meeting that so many people showed up again last night, the other night, to speak for and against the mosque, the only question was, is it comporting with the law? It wasn't about saying yes or no because it's an Islamic mosque and expanding. However, Erin, going back to rejoining with you, the thing is that people, and you're not disagreeing with this, and we all know this is true, the people were entitled to show up and speak out and say, I'm against the Islamization of North Texas, I'm against aggressive Islam or Islamists, I'm against Sharia law, and they did that, and some people were out of control, as we know. And then, you were saying too, I think in some of your writings or maybe in our conversation, I can't remember, but like about half the people that showed up out of the 150 speakers, which is a massive, actually, I will ask you this, that's a massive turnout for any public thing, isn't it? Like for speaking?
It is. And that, I did not count, which column each speaker was in.
But
so my sense was, it could have been 2-to-1, as far as, or closer to 1-on-1 as far as for and against this particular issue. The larger question, though, certainly everyone has an opportunity at every single city council meeting, which are usually not this well attended, to come and speak their mind, and preferably in a little less rowdy way.
Right.
But they're certainly entitled to that. But this particular item on the agenda was not up for debate. In fact, it was on the consent agenda and would have just been passed except Councilwoman Feltes pulled it off specifically so people could talk about it, and so the city could then come and do a presentation
Right.
to try to explain more and answer some of the questions that had been raised in the last 2 weeks since people, kind of learned about this and saw it was going to be on the agenda. But it was never about, oh, well, whatever we hear tonight is going to affect our vote. Not because they, quote, weren't listening, but because the city ordinance already required them to approve it. The discussion was, available because you do want to hear, but it was never going to impact the vote because this was not something that was up for a vote.
Right. It was just saying yes, we approved the request to expand because it's already been legally met before the night. There was a formality, but of course, like you're saying and I'm saying, of course, people speak out and they did, and that's great. Just how they were speaking out was not the best on some people. And so you were saying it's about 1-to-1 maybe. Maybe it was somewhere around 60-40 against the mosque or 50-50 against and for the mosque, roughly somewhere around there. Is that your guesstimate? Again, not trying to pick hairs on it, just to make sure.
I felt like each side felt like their side was more, and I think that's just common, right?
Right.
This is just each side feels because they feel the energy is on their side. But as trying to be more of an objective reporter of what people are saying, I felt it was a little more even than that. And that's why I said I don't think this is a majority issue in the city. People, each person that holds their side feels their side is the majority, right?
Let's get in on this, okay? Because again, I'm not expecting you to know the statistics of McKinney as far as political leanings, but if you had to guess, what would you guess the percentage of conservative versus liberal or Democrat versus Republican to make it easier? Just guess. What would you guess the city of McKinney is? 50-50, a little bit more leaning left, a little bit more leaning right, or about 50-50? Just guessing.
I'd say it's fairly even-ish, not 50-50, but I'm going to go by, because if you look at some of the partisan races, you see it's more they still Republicans get elected.
Okay.
It's still Collin County in general, other than now Plano. The elected officials are Republican.
Right.
Countywide, they're Republican. The state reps, the congressmen, but cities are a different matter.
Yes.
So within each city, because these are not partisan elections, it's hard to say. Somebody made the point when they were talking about the current council and how they should be. They said, well, they got a lot of Democrats to come out and vote for whoever for these councils. I'm like, well, yes, the city has a lot of Democrats. It's a nonpartisan election.
Right.
They're gonna and Democrats are allowed to vote, and they do vote in elections. And within the cities, especially,
they vote a lot more than Republicans do in the city.
We see people; they're not branded. I mean, even Mayor Fuller said he was Republican, and then he kept writing op-eds about how he was ashamed to be a Republican because they were horrible people.
Yes,
which is funny. And then and he endorsed a lot of Democrats. I think but if you look at just the the people that are on council that got elected, that's what I make my opinion by. So the people that vote, maybe people who don't vote have different opinions, but the people who vote to put this current council in office clearly, more or less agree with what the stand of the current council members. That's why they picked them.
There's some more comments. People can comment if they're watching the stream on Rumble or YouTube. I can see your comments in real time. Help Mama 4664 says local authorities need to do inspections after the mosques have been running for a while. If U.S. mosques anything like the mosques in Muslim majority countries, they will modify the buildings, typically to include secret training rooms, armories, places to process dead bodies. Okay, well, I mean, it's getting a little cadaver dogs. All right, little out there, but I share very much a concern about the Islamization of Texas. Period, unequivocally. Let me do this though. I got a few more things I wanted to talk to you about. Mayor Fuller former Mayor Fuller of McKinney, who I've never been a fan of in any way, shape, or form. And by the way, he makes me think about another news thing that came out in the past 24 hours or 12 hours is former Judge Whitley for Tarrant County. I never. He was always a rhino to me. He was always. I know you're a reporter. You don't do political commentary or opinion commentary, I should say. But like he was always a rhino to me, so it didn't surprise me. But it's disgusting to me. But no, it didn't surprise me that he just came out and endorsed Talarico, which is a disgrace. But
well, I mean, he endorsed Kamala Harris, so that's not a surprise at all.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So he's not a Republican. He's a fake Republican, and period. When you do that kind of stuff, Kamala Harris and him are obviously insane leftists. Now, leftists. Okay, let's do this with George Fuller. He writes this thing, and like you said, it's all about, and you didn't say this directly, but I'm going to say it's all about Mayor Fuller, and he's featured in the Dallas Morning News. He is the shining light to expose people and how wrong they are when they are against the Islamization of Texas. So he writes this column, former McKinney mayor, anti-Muslim fear at council meeting was disappointing. I'm going to say a quick thing here. It's not fear when you cite grooming gangs, rape gangs that are Muslim in Great Britain. It's not anti-Muslim fear when you cite the no-go zones in Germany, when you cite Jews having to hide their yarmulkes, their kippas, they're having to hide and being told by the government in France and Germany not to have their Star of David displayed at their house, not to have their menorahs on display for Hanukkah. This is complete, total BS. And if he wants to go to Europe, I'll say go to Europe, dude. Now let me get in with this. So I highlighted a few lines from his piece. Does this plan site comply with the city's development standards? Was the only thing that mattered. Does it comply with the city's development standards? And honestly, that is what was at question. He's right about that, though, right, Erin, as far as the vote from the other night?
I mean, he's absolutely right about that. And I've said so more than once, and not everybody was happy about that. But that's correct. It doesn't mean people are not free to also, speak on other things.
Yeah. He says, what surprised me the most in the evening was hearing some elected officials, particularly those who identify as constitutional conservatives, like Congressman. He actually attacked Congressman Keith Self. But what Keith Self wrote about or spoke about, and has spoke about on my podcast as well, is the stages of how Islam has unfolded in countries like Europe and Australia, where before they came. And I'm trying to make sure I get the stages right here because there's so many different pieces of paper I have from all my different arguments. But where is it? Hold on one sec. It is the stages where it goes from they're there, then they become aggressive or hostile, if you will, and then they go from that to here we go. I got it right here. A progression from religious accommodation, which is, let's take what happened in Europe, a progression from religious accommodation to political intimidation, and then raising concerns, he said, about Sharia and political Islam. These things have happened and unfolded in Australia and in Europe, for example. So I think that's a very righteous concern about not happening here.
Well, I mean, it's happened in other American cities.
Yes,
which is not to say,
Dearborn.
It's absolutely, it's guaranteed here, and we're going to pre-crime everyone that we think might not comport. That doesn't mean it's not a concern. I mean, that's what we're looking at here. This is people are. Should not be shut down for citing actual things that have happened.
So, Erin,
but I'll be honest, I don't read the Dallas Morning News, so I didn't see that piece.
Well, it spared you some more self-aggrandizing.
I heard it live at the meeting. I didn't need to rehash.
How awesome!
And I don't need electeds and former electeds to tell me what to think about what I actually heard myself.
How awesome! How awesome he is! And how incredible he is, etc. All that kind of garbage. Now, a couple more quick things, and that is before I let you go. You've been very generous with your time with me today, and I appreciate that very much, Erin. What can be done? Because people want to know, how can we stand up to the Islamization of Texas when, we can remove principals like we did. We didn't rest until the former, now disgraced, and former principal of Wiley East High School, Tiffany Doolin, was ousted herself, if you will. We have exposed that. We got that out. We're fighting against Epic City, the Muslim enclave that they pretended wasn't, but they actually said was in all their advertisements. Same thing with that city they were going to try to do down in Kaufman City, Sustainable Cities USA. That was pulled as of right now, which is great. So what can people do when, like for example, at the McKinney Mosque hearing, what can people do that can further that cause that they want to further?
Well, I think it's real important to note here that there's a distinction between people, exercising and people, engaging in, political activity that is, not legal or, anti-American or subversive or what have you. And you mentioned Congressman Self. He talked specifically about political Sharia.
Yes.
Which is very different from people, exercising, religious freedom and a faith.
Right.
They're different. They go side by side, which is why people are concerned, and why it's extremely challenging to try to find that line, right? Because they blur.
Yes.
So it's like, look, so you don't want anything that, you're not trying to stop a religious practice. You're trying to, but you are looking for, number one, if there are, actual, violations in the political realm, which just happen to be adjacent and so are hard to distinguish.
Yes.
And then things that were similar to Tuesday night, except in that particular case, there weren't items to be challenged, right, as far as the construction and so forth. Different than in, say, Epic City, which you brought up. That is a new development out in county property, and was required to have, again, meet certain specifications, which they didn't meet. One of which is to get, you have to get water service. I mean, it sounds simple, but that's basic. They tried to get in with a municipal utility district, a MUD.
Yes.
So they tried to. The new law that was passed says, you have to get, you have to get TCEQ, an agency approval for your MUD.
Right.
But if you are operating in a way that is discriminatory, religiously discriminatory, i.e., say Muslim only,
yes,
which is how Epic City was originally,
yes,
advertised, then they can withhold that. Well, so handed to Epic City, the developers said, well, we'll just elect our people to an existing MUD, right, so we won't have to start a new one and risk getting turned down. So it turned out that the people that they went in and had like a new board elected, but they weren't eligible. It was all this crazy shenanigans.
And like a meeting in the middle of in the middle of nowhere in that area.
Right. Well, now, granted, let me tell you, MUDs do that all the time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They do all kind of shenanigans. It's bad. But they had done this swap out to get new people elected who would then say, oh, of course we will. We will support your project here. And then said, wait, you people don't even live here. You're not qualified. You're not eligible to be MUD board members, so you can't. So they had to unwind the whole thing, and it was very confusing. The Attorney General stepped in, did a suit, and so that's going to come up into court in November just to resolve the shenanigans with the municipal district, and then they'll have to start back over, depending on how that goes, and go through the process again of trying to get a MUD, which is part of the process to get your site going and approved. So again, so this is not attacking somebody's, religious beliefs. It's saying, look, you are not following, the guidelines for a new development.
So as far as Epic, now the MUD, the Municipal Utility District, did they vote in one? Was because I don't know how this works. The original Municipal Utility District, or MUD, that was there, was that their folks that they put on for Epic City? Or was that an entity that was already there that had nothing to do with Epic City?
It was already there. I'm not sure how they even found out about it. So there was a MUD that had gotten started for some possible other prospective development that wasn't happening.
It had nothing to
But
do
that
with
was,
nothing to do with the Muslim community or anything. It was just a regular mud, right?
yeah, they had, I can't remember, they had some other plan going on, and that wasn't really going forward. And somehow they went to the meeting and got their own people elected. It was all very strange, and
Right.
the rules are arcane. But it's basically, they're like, well, you had to have if you fired them all, then who was on the board to approve the new board,
Right.
right? So it was so convoluted. They're like, look, we're gonna have to take this to court,
Did,
y'all.
did it appear? Did it appear that they were doing it by design to sneakily do this?
Oh, 100%, 100%, because that was the big sticking point in new developments is you have to get your TECQ to approve your new mud for your new district, and if they say no, you can't have it. So I mean, this was definitely, it tried to be an end run around
Okay.
HB 4211.
So Epic City Mosque, or Epic City, from East Plano Islamic Center, Epic City literally was started in a deceptive manner, from what you can tell from everything that you've gathered as a journalist. And also, the whole idea of being a Muslims-only city only came out when people got a hold of marketing materials that were seemingly sent only to Muslims. In fact, let me play a short part of the video. You may or may not be able to hear it. If my audio will work. I've been having some audio problems with playing things. But let me see here if it'll work real fast, just so people can see it. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know why my audio is not coming up on that. I'll have to figure that out. But anyways, it said with Islam at the heart of the city, right, and stuff like that in the promo.
Mm-hmm.
So it was obvious it was Muslims only, and they sneakily threw out the mud and put it in their mud, and they sneakily were doing this. So to me, it was complete and total deception from the very beginning, because they knew, and this is my speculation, but it was completely and totally surreptitious, wrong, rigging it, and hiding it so they could make a Muslim city before, and it would be too late to stop it. Is that kind of how it appeared when you were doing all your journalism work on this?
Well, you don't have to overcomplicate it too much, though. It was the developers were
Welcome
from
to
Epic.
Epic
They were Muslim. Of course,
2.0.
they were gonna. Who were they gonna sell it to? Their friends and family who they wanted to live there.
Right.
They didn't.
Epic
They didn't
City
have to sell it
is more
outward.
than just a neighborhood.
You don't have
It's
to be
a way
sneaky
of
about
life.
it. You see what I'm saying? It's not like,
meticulously
oh,
designed
if word
community
gets out,
that
all these
brings
other people
Islam
will
to the
want to buy in.
forefront.
It was just kind of, you just understood that this is,
With
we're,
single-family homes,
we're branding to a
multifamily
particular
townhomes and
audience.
apartments, senior
We're selling them what we're
and in
telling
the
them
heart, a
what the
mosque
things that they
and a
want.
school.
They're going to come on board. We can fill it all up with friends and family, and
Parks
it's all
for Eid
good.
prayer, carnivals,
And
community
there are
events.
some exceptions to the
Allah
Fair
to
Housing
help us-
Act. They closed in the Texas law. It's not
Welcome
actually
to Epic
entirely precluded
2.0.
to have religious residential areas. Now, one of their size maybe, but
Epic City is
so
more
but they
than
didn't think
just a
anybody was
neighborhood.
looking, right?
It's a
Just
way of life.
the-
A meticulously
of course we'll
designed
do this.
community that
Erin,
brings
if they, to me, and I'm looking at the very end, it says, "We ask Allah to help us complete this project." I mean, this is an unequivocally naked grab at making an illegal Muslim city, which is why it enrages so many of us. But to me, being surreptitious, being sneaky, and making Muslim-only kind of marketing tells me they knew what they were doing is illegal. Now, I don't know for a fact, but it tells me it appears they knew what they were doing, and they intentionally were sneaky about it because they knew what they were doing was not okay. I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts on from your journalism stuff, gathering it tells you. I think we lost her phone again. She'll come back on. Phone just kind of goes weird for a second, and she'll come right back on. Can you hear me okay, Erin? Oh, lost her call. I'll try her back again real fast. There we go.
Hello?
Sorry about that. Yeah,
Am I back? No worries.
sorry about that. My last question was I got like two more quick ones, and that is it. So it seems what I'm gathering from your journalism work is that not only did Epic City officials sneakily and surreptitiously put this other mud together, surreptitiously and quietly put together Muslims-only marketing, but that tells me they knew what they were doing was wrong, and that tells me that they they knew it was wrong, but they did it this way, hoping they wouldn't get caught. Does it appear that way from your all your digging?
I mean, I'm not honestly at the beginning. I'm not sure they thought there was anything wrong with just having saying, "Hey, all our Muslim friends, come to our new Muslim neighborhood." They found out real quick, and certainly by the time this mud thing came around, that was a definite in run. But I honestly just think they thought it was fine, and that nobody was going to complain. And they what they used to say on Scooby Doo, we might have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those
meddling kids.
So, but they weren't so sneaky because all of this was on the internet.
Right.
The head scholar there, he's an internet sensation. He's born in Texas. He moved up here and he does videos all the time, and just nobody ever watched him. But they were hiding in plain sight. It was all there online for anybody who chose to look.
What do you think is going to happen? You said the next hearing for Epic City comes up in November. What do you think is going to happen in November, and what do you ultimately think is going to happen based on what you know? I have a big fear it's still going to go through. And one more thing I'll throw in there for you to respond to is, are there any other towns that are exclusive for one faith only that you're aware of?
Towns. Aside from the Amish communities,
That's true.
and Mennonite communities, there are what you would call enclaves, where there's a collection of people of various faiths that tend to be more, have a more exclusive type of the way they run their faith, like some of the more some of the Jewish communities that are very have a very orthodox kind of thing where you can't just hang out with everybody all the time. It's much more conducive to be with members of your own faith. And so there's a few that are scattered around. You have Catholic areas and different faiths, but by and large, and that's why there are fair housing exceptions for religious groups who have these types of these enclaves, but not usually like a whole city. I wouldn't say more like a residential neighborhood. That's what they've got going over in Epic and Plano. They've got a neighborhood that
sure do. It's
all
all Muslim. It's not integrated. It's not assimilated in any way, shape, or form. I mean, from my personal gathering and going there and taking pictures and going to the Epic Mosque.
They all want to live near their mosque and near each other. You can see how that sounds. That sounds reasonable. And they don't have their own. It's not a whole city. It's a neighborhood. It's a neighborhood that surrounds the mosque.
So, you mentioned Amish and Mennonite, and I don't expect you to have knowledge on this, but can people move next to an Amish or in an Amish neighborhood or a Mennonite neighborhood? I would assume they can't exclude people if it's like fair housing rules.
You can if you own the property.
Yes.
There's private property rights here as well. And so,
although they can't get caught, again, I don't know, but I believe they cannot get caught purposely not wanting to sell to a Jew or purposely not wanting to sell to a Christian or even a Muslim, because that's discrimination from one of the 5 protected classes.
Well, again, there are certain fair housing exceptions for religious groups.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
I'm sure the Amish know what they are because they've been living them for decades. But the thing is, we have our rules now. We know what the situation is now.
So, do you think this is going to get ultimately? Epic City is going to ultimately get approved? Ultimately.
I have my own personal views on what's going on there that are not supported by by facts, so I don't want to throw them out there.
But based on what you
But
do know,
I don't have a strong sense that this, having driven out to that property more than once.
Yeah.
There is literally nothing there. It's literal farmland. It's grass and hay bales, and some really bad little country roads that you know would have to be rebuilt just for equipment to be in to start laying anything.
Right.
They are so far away from something actually even starting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really sure that they have the financing that they claim to have. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Okay, that's an interesting tidbit. That is an interesting tidbit. Again, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But they've got some financing questions, and that's very telling and very interesting.
Because it was a very strange setup how they sold those things. That was one of the other issues with it. It wasn't just that they were trying to be exclusive. It was a very strange setup. And, again, without the money, they can't start rebuilding the roads to start sending the equipment in to start laying the concrete and all of it. So there's a lot of moving parts.
One of the things I wondered when I went around Epic Mosque, and in that neighborhood, and these are $1 million, $2 million houses, if I'm not mistaken, really, in that immediate area. And, look, you can be Muslim and be wealthy. You can be Muslim and be upper middle class. You can be Muslim and have money and come here lawfully and legally. But where are they getting all the money from that we're seeing in let alone in that Plano area immediately? And then thinking, well, I mean, this could be, maybe it's foreign money that's coming in. Not saying it's illegally, but maybe there's foreign money coming in for people that are like, oh, you're gonna, from Muslim countries saying you're gonna build a Muslim city. Heck yeah, I'm gonna help you. I'll put money down on that. I mean, I don't know, but you're saying you're suspect that the financing will even be able to come together for something like this. You're saying
parks for
that so aside from the financing, do you think that the city will ever, the Epic City will ever, again, just based on what you've gathered as a journalist and what you know, do you see this city, if they do come up with the money, ultimately being approved?
Well, under our current laws, there's not a way, just as we just saw in McKinney, there's not a way to disapprove it if it meets
the law,
the specifications. And counties have much less authority to approve, disapprove developments than cities. And at least the city has ordinances and zoning. That's not at all the case in the counties. And so Chris Hill said it himself. He said, look, y'all have raised a lot of valid questions, but they too have the ministerial duty. Should all the paperwork show that everything is in line, they have to approve it. Now then, many more things have to happen going forward, right, at each stage of the process. But they don't. Collin and Hunt counties were able to reject the initial applications from Epic because they were incomplete, not because we don't find your development desirable. They're not. That's not an allowed response. Just like McKinney was constrained with what they could do. The counties are constrained by state law with what they can do and not do, and they can't just say we don't care for you. We don't want what you're bringing, and so we're going to reject this paperwork.
Erin Anderson, Texas Scorecard. I appreciate you very much. You've been very generous with your time, and you answered a lot of questions. And I look forward to, from time to time, if you're okay, having you back on to talk about stuff I see your coverage about, because I think you're a very good journalist.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't make everybody happy, but I try to just lay out some facts and not tell people what to think about it. And hopefully that helps them going forward with what they, whatever it is they want to do. They've got enough facts that helps them.
It sure does. Erin Anderson, Texas Scorecard, thank you very much. I look forward to talking to you down the road. Appreciate you very much, okay?
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
You take care now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, there she goes. And there you go. Good stuff. She was great. And thank you very much again to her. In just a moment, I have a couple of things. Talarico might be in some real trouble. When you have two major liberal journalism outlets saying that you have serious problems possibly with your voter registration, you might be breaking the law, Talarico, you're in big trouble, yo. And it's funny because somebody mentioned before that he needs to take the log out of his own eye before he points out the speck in somebody else's eye about Paxton and his voting from supposedly from his former address or whatever. This is remarkable. So we're going to get into this next. Also, somebody tries to ask Talarico at a gathering just coming up today, tries to ask him about his voter stuff and where he lives, and they grabbed his phone and turned it off allegedly, and told him to leave. I got some video on that too that just came in on Talarico. But first, I want to tell you this: my house looks so amazing. My house looks so amazing. What happened was, one of my sponsors, Blue Ribbon Roofing, which I'm wearing their shirt, one of their shirts I have, Blue Ribbon Roofing. They're the Porsche of roofers. I had my friend and sponsor, John Hopkins from Blue Ribbon Roofing. Here's John and his wife, Tish, and his son, Trevor, and his daughter-in-law, Jenna. I've worked with all of them on the phone, texting, email. But they came over, John came over and determined that my roof needs to be replaced, that there's serious damage from hail, etc. And I was like, no way. Well, my insurance company said yes way, and they approved. So since then, John has taken my roof, and here's a little footage here.
See that white line?
From John on my roof. I'm going to go to this is what my roof looked like before. Okay. See that? Now here's what my roof looks like now. They replaced the entire decking, all the shingles. Look at how great and beautiful it is. But what's really cool is, and by the way, Class 4 shingles. You got to get Class 4 shingles and get them from Blue Ribbon, DFW.com, Blue Ribbon Roofing, when you get your roof done. Because Class 4 shingles will save you. Like me, I got 11% off my policy, $613 per year in perpetuity. With my new roof discount, I am now down from $5,500 a year for my insurance to $3,300. It's insane. Thank you, Blue Ribbon Roofing. Get the Class 4 shingles. But my house, look at this. Here's some other stuff that they did from the damage. I have new shingles made from scratch, new wood shingles stained. Look at how beautiful that is. A new wood door they installed, and it's gorgeous. That was a naked door their guys did. I mean, Blue Ribbon Roofing really is the blue ribbon, the creme de la creme. So what I want you to do is get them on your roof. If your roof is 8 years old or older, you may not get the full amount back for a new roof. Get them on your roof to inspect it before the 8-year mark, just to make sure everything's okay, because if it's not, a lot of policies only pay for what the actual roof is worth, meaning it's old, so it's going to get less versus what it costs to replace it. Don't wait. Go to blueribbondfw.com, blueribbondfw.com. They are incredible, and I really, really mean that. Their customer service is impeccable. And tomorrow they're going to put on, check this out, y'all. Tomorrow they're going to put on copper gutters. Have you ever seen copper gutters? Metallic copper gutters. So it's going to have a copper shine. I've pimped out my house in a good way, thanks to Blue Ribbon DFW. Thank you guys. I want to tell you something else too. Are you single, or do you have a loved one who's single, or a friend that's single? We have a dear friend who her husband passed away, and she started going to the Prestonwood Church Singles Ministry, and it's an incredible game changer. And if you're interested in maybe meeting the partner of your life, this could be the place to do it. And it's not there for matching couples up. It's there for singles ministry, but it's a massive ministry. Check this out. And because so many people love it, and it's so powerful and incredible and fun, and people do end up meeting their significant others there. I'm going to show you the people that gather. Look at how many people show up at this. This is the singles ministry at Prestonwood Church, 6:30 on Wednesdays. Here's another one of their angles there when they're meeting together. That's how many people. And they go out and have a lot of fun things. Like here they are doing roller skating. Here they are doing game night at a game place where you eat and game. They have dinners where they go out afterwards. And at Jimmy John's, Chili's, Snuffers, Free Play, and Fuzzies, and just have a great time together. So what I want you to do is check this out. If you or somebody you know is interested in a singles ministry that is incredible, go to Resonate Singles at Prestonwood Church in Plano, And just Google that on Facebook, for example. Just Google Resonate Singles Prestonwood Church, and it'll come right up. Somebody's actually paying me to do this ad because they believe in this ministry so much. And it's not the church. Church approved of me doing this, but they didn't pay for it. So that's how amazing this ministry is. Get up there, even if it's a drive, go if you're single, for an amazing, powerful singles ministry that somebody believes in so much because it helped them. In fact, here's a QR code you can scan. It'll take you right to their Facebook page, okay? Prestonwood Church, Wednesday, 6:30, Prestonwood Christian Academy, in the Horner Room. Resonate Singles Bible Study, Prestonwood Church, ages 30s and above. Okay. Now, I want to go to Epic City, aside from what I was talking about, to the great, inimitable Erin Anderson, the journalist with Texas Scorecard that I just spent some time with. Epic City in the Senate crosshairs right now today after Islamist separatism warning. This from the Dallas Express today. You have... this was yesterday. Wednesday, U.S. Senate hearing on the Muslim Brotherhood's domestic network. It is a terrorist group. It's been banned by Egypt, for example. They birthed Hamas. The Muslim Brotherhood birthed Hamas. The early people of Muslim Brotherhood, the early founders, were in the 40s and the 30s, and they literally had Hitler's Mein Kampf book. And in fact, they helped Hitler to get his first and one and only, and I'm not exaggerating this, this was told to me by literally one of the best scholars on Holocaust and history of Israel and that whole part of the world. Can't remember his name, but he's on at UT Dallas, and he is. I called after October 7th happened. I wanted people on my radio show at the time. I called the Jewish Federation of Dallas, or whatever it's called, the Jewish Community Authority, if you will, for Dallas and I think even Fort Worth. And I called them, and they said, "You really know who you need to have on?" David. I can't remember David's last name. I apologize. He's a great man. David Patterson, I think it is. I could be wrong. Let me double check. I want you to know this because this man's incredible. I love him very much. My son went to UTD. He graduated just this past. UTD. Holocaust Studies. Professor David Patterson. I was right. Okay, sorry. I just want to be accurate because this guy's incredible. I need to have him on my podcast. I'm going to have him on. He'll come on in a heartbeat. We're kind of friends. The Hillel A. Feinberg Distinguished Chair in Holocaust Studies and Professor of Literature and History at the Ackerman Center for Holocaust Studies at UTD. This man's an amazing man. I consider him a friend. My son, he lectured at one of my son's classes, and I said, you go up to him and you tell him how much I love that man and I appreciate him. He's the one who's an expert, and I'm going to have him on. I will, because he taught me that Muslim Brotherhood birthed Hamas. He taught me that on my radio show, and he taught me that Hamas, or Muslim Brotherhood, formed a exclusive Muslim squad that was killing Jews, murdering Jews in Germany during the Holocaust. And I think there were like Chechenian or somewhere in that region, Muslims that went in at the behest of with the support of Hitler and were a death squad. I'm going to have him on to explain that. My point being is Muslim Brotherhood is extraordinarily a terrorist group and has been since the 30s, and has admired Hitler and everything. They found books of Mein Kampf after the IDF went in after October 7th. There were books that they found of Mein Kampf. There were children's materials with Mein Kampf and stuff like that they exposed. It's just sick. It's sick, is what it is. Epic City in the Senate crosshairs after Islamic separatism warning from the Dallas Express today. Muslim Brotherhood's domestic network, with one witness describing in the Senate hearing as the American version of Islamist separatism. That's exactly right. Ted Cruz chaired the hearing titled Hidden in Plain Sight, Confronting the Muslim Brotherhood Network in America. The American version of this pattern is Epic City, they said. This is so true. A residential community project in North Texas designed to be an exclusively Muslim city branded as the epicenter of Islam in America. The epicenter of Islam in America, right here in North Texas. Hell no. This man named Ariel F. Klepak, a senior litigation counsel for the National Jewish Advocacy Center, said he compared the development of EPIC to a European mega mosque projects that combine religious, educational, and social services. He had the testimony that Klepak gave. Oh, Ariel is a woman. Okay. Her testimony cited British warnings. Some projects can reduce residents' reliance on public institutions, isolate communities from surrounding society. Muslim cities, Muslims only. She called that an active advocacy relationship between CARE and EPIC religious community. CARE is a foreign terrorist organization as labeled by, as I mentioned, the UAE, which is a Muslim nation, United Arab Emirates, Texas, and Florida. The Justice Department has said the foundation, the Muslim Brotherhood and Holy Land Foundation, which I've told you about so many times. I was on the air in Buffalo today. Yesterday I was on in Chicago, and I told them about the Holy Land Foundation, the largest ever terrorism fundraising case in U.S. history, raising $5 to $7 million to kill Jews, pretending it was for Palestinian aid. Several members of the Holy Land Foundation were convicted and sentenced to jail for a long time. They're still in jail for fundraising for terrorism. And CARE was labeled by the FBI and the Department of Justice as an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest ever terrorism fundraising case in U.S. history from Richardson, Texas, the Holy Land Foundation. CARE was caught, and I believe it was the founder of CARE, Nihad Awad, who I'll play a little bit. I can't put something's wrong with my audio. I don't know when I play videos. I don't know what that is about. If it isn't my guest having audio problems, then it's this. Welcome to the world of podcasting, being a solo guy. But CARE was caught on a wiretap at a hotel room meeting in Boston by the DOJ, and they were meeting with Holy Land Foundation, and the CARE representative, which again I think it was the founder, Nihad Awad, said that we need to wage jihad in this country, in America, against this country. We need to do it nonviolently by using the laws of the land, by using the media to turn this country against itself for the furtherance of Islam. And CARE, after the case was adjudicated, and all these several people, whatever, went to jail for decades, CARE then sued and tried to get the judge to remove their name as an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest ever terrorism fundraising case in U.S. history. And the judge says, no, you are, and you always will be, an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest ever terrorism fundraising case in U.S. history, CARE. So they are forever to be known, factually, according to our government and the Justice Department and the FBI, that they're terrorism. They are co-conspirators in terrorism fundraising. That's who CARE is. That's why we're right to call them a foreign terrorist organization, because they are. Talarico. I cannot wait to get into Talarico in just 1 second. For example, I'll start with this. Texas Tribune and ProPublica. These are very liberal outlets. Both them are now raising questions about whether his voter registration was current and whether he may have possibly illegally voted. That's from the Dallas Morning News today. I'm going to tell you about that in just 1 second. I also want to tell you this. And you also see some video of Talarico and his representatives like grabbing a phone and turning it off or something like that, allegedly, from somebody that was confronting him about his voter registration. Today it just dropped. I'll play it for you in a second. But the first thing I want to do is tell you this. Do you know what it means for somebody, a woman, to come into a church, to meet with the pastor, saying, I'm in need, I need things, can you help me? And then when she gets up and leaves, she leaves a key on her chair that she was just sitting in the church office. Do you know what that means? It's a cry for help that this person is being sex trafficked. It happened to one of the top pastors in my former church in North Dallas. He said after she got up and left, he saw a key on her chair. And he said, "What is this? What's going on?" And then eventually he and the church, I guess, figured out that this was a victim of sex trafficking crying for help. So he went to the apartment complex where the key is from with church members, worked with the apartment complex. I think this lady's in trouble. She left this year. The apartment complex looked in her apartment and didn't see much of anything in there. They determined that she was being sex trafficked. They believed that they got a sex trafficking group ministry involved, and they were able to locate her and free her. This is in North Dallas, in a very nice area. Sex trafficking is everywhere. It's in our neighborhoods. Like the Attorney General of the state of Texas had a video put together for it, and it was in a house that's worth probably $800,000 in the Woodlands, and right next door was a man and his wife, and they said there were 44 cars coming in every day. They counted them, BMWs, Mercedes, and beat up cars too. And when they found out that it was sex trafficking, they had to report it because they have a little daughter, and they're like, we can't have this happening. We have a little daughter. I mean, this we can't do this. So they reported it to the sheriff, and the Harris County Sheriff Department in Houston took them down. And it was a sex trafficking ring. They determined that these are foreigners. I can't remember if it was Russian or something, or Chinese or what. Foreigners that owned a couple houses in Houston, in the area, a couple houses in New York, and girls being raped day and night, held against their will. Well, you can help stop this now. There's a ministry, a Christian ministry, that provides free to people who cannot afford it, which is, anybody in these situations, I'm sure, can't afford it. But the overwhelming majority of all that they do is free, licensed professional Christian counseling. And they heal these women. And they give them the confidence that they're only advocate in many cases. And they give them the confidence to go in front of a judge and ask for a second chance to get custody of their children back. They realize they come in mad at the world. They blame themselves for what happened. Many of them have been sex trafficked by their own parents when they were young, their mom, for example, so she can get drugs. And they think it's their fault. And they break the chains of slavery and free themselves through healing counseling, Christian counseling. And they find churches, and they get jobs, and they get their own apartment, and they grow. You can be a part of supporting this. It's all part of North Texas Giving Day for an organization I worked with and worked for, and have partnered with on my podcast as a sponsor, Thrive Counseling Services. And it's all part of North Texas Giving Day, and you can donate to Thrive even right now. Here is how you can go. There's a link right there for Thrive Counseling Services. They're based in Deep Ellum. They are DFW exclusive, and they're amazing. So what I want you to do is be able to go to that link right there, tinyurl.com/ThriveNTG, as in NTGD, as in North Texas Giving Day, and donate right now. You can donate year-round on that link. I want to show you also, this is a QR code you can scan to donate right now, and do it right now. They partner with Safe Houses in Dallas-Fort Worth, Refuge City, Alive at Last, the Poema Foundation, Exodus Ministries. These are powerful Christian ministries that are saving women's lives and setting them free. Donate right now. Scan that QR code or go to this link right here. All right, and that link will take you to where you can donate right now. Thrive Counseling Services is an amazing ministry right here in Dallas-Fort Worth, okay? Thank you very much. Or as Zelensky would say, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, Talarico, from the Dallas Morning News just this afternoon, Talarico voted using parents' address after buying nearby home, report says. Democrat Senate nominee James Talarico voted in 5 elections using his parents' address after buying a home nearby, a practice that has drawn questions about whether his voter registration was current. According to the extraordinarily liberal Texas Tribune and the extraordinarily liberal ProPublica. These are the ones that I believe publish Trump's tax records and stuff like that. They're vilely leftist, Talarico, a state representative from Austin, registered at his parents' address November 2021 after moving into the Texas House district he now represents. He bought a North Austin home in 2022 of June, so that's 7 months, 8 months later. Moving into the Texas House district he now represents. He bought a North Austin home in 2022, but did not update his voter registration until September 2024. They are not responding to any questions, even from liberal publications like the Dallas Morning News, Texas Tribune, and ProPublica. What does that tell you? They also wouldn't respond when this was exposed by conservative media as well. So they ain't responding to the leftist media or conservative media. No one. Talarico, a state representative from Austin, they say it's unclear, however, when Talarico began living in the home he purchased. His campaign declined to answer questions about his residency, citing threats against him and his family. So that's why he can't tell you if he's a liar, if he's violated Texas law, if he voted illegally. He can't tell you because of safety. B to the S, and we all know that. Texas requires voters to register where they live, but courts have said residency depends on multiple factors. Violations also require proof that a voter knowingly or intentionally broke the law. So we'll see how this plays out. Here is video, and I'm going to pull this up I'm going to read it from her tweet. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to pull it up. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Hold on. Let me go to my feed because I want to get this right. Where does she go? Oh, I can't see it now. From Texas, she's from Texas Scorecard. Gonzalez. What's her first name? Hold on. I'll just pull it up real fast. This will do it for me. There she is, Sarah Gonzalez. Sarah Gonzalez put this out there and said this is video allegedly, and I'm going to kind of butcher this a little bit, I can tell you that right now, but this is video of Talarico's folks allegedly grabbing the phone and turning it off. Here we go. Hold on, let me pull up Sarah Gonzalez. I don't know why. Oh, I know what happened. Hold on. 1 second. I downloaded it, but I didn't dump it into my system, I believe is what it is. This is it, I think. Hold on. Yeah, this is it. Okay. Boom. This is what Sarah Gonzalez says is somebody grabbing the phone with Talarico's campaign and from his hand. Here we go. This is it. A Texas man asked James Talarico, she writes, why he committed voter fraud, and Talarico's staff immediately panics, all caps, grabs the man's phone and shuts it off. You can't grab people's phones out of their hands because you don't like voters' questions. Here's the video of that. Again, I don't have audio for whatever reason today. I don't know why. I'll figure it out. Oh, here we go.
I'm just going to do a selfie. I'll be quick.
Sorry, we don't allow selfies just for security.
Hey, I appreciate you. I love this picture too. You committed voter fraud.
There you go. Boom. Phone taken and allegedly shut off by Talarico folks. So that just came up from Sarah Gonzalez this afternoon. Don't forget this. Talarico, according to Breitbart, has already tapped out. 98% of Democrats already are going to vote for Talarico. He has nowhere up to go, and he still can't win. That with that poll, it shows him up by 2. But the problem is, Paxton has 85% of Republican support. 9% of the Republicans who back President Trump are undecided. Well, they ain't going to vote for Talarico. If you vote for Trump, there's maybe 5%, maybe 10% if you're lucky that'll vote for Talarico, meaning that he'll get about 8 points. And if he gets 8 more points, for example, then he will be ahead of Talarico by 6 points. And I'm going to tell you now, as they define him over the next 4 months, that Talarico will lose by 7 to 12 points but from Ken Paxton. You watch. Speaking of Ken Paxton and Tarrant County Judge Whitley, former Tarrant County Judge Whitley, who's a fake Republican, he endorsed Kamala Harris in the last election. Today he endorsed Talarico, which obviously shows you it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Glenn Whitley has been a rhino. I remember when he was the Tarrant County Judge, because I'm old enough to remember when he was the Tarrant County Judge, right? As they say, I've been here for 16 years now. My wife did not believe us when we were looking at the beautiful house we have that Blue Ribbon Roofing, did new door, new shutters, new painting, new gutters coming in. That it's going to be amazing. It looks amazing already. We were admiring it, and she's like, how long have we been here? In this house, 8 years. I'm like, no, we've been in this house for almost 12 years, and then we've lived here in North Texas for 16. But I'm old enough to remember, quote unquote, when Judge Whitley was the judge of Tarrant County, and it was completely a disgrace and a joke how much of a Republican and name only rhino that he really was. And I was always going after him as the judge. So none of this is a surprise. But you want to talk about who's consolidating around Ken Paxton? His former nemesis. For example, let me see here. Where's that article? Right here we go. From Texas Scorecard today. Old divisions fade as Republicans rally around Paxton. State Rep Jeff Leach, who absolutely despised Paxton, Leach and also Briscoe Kane and Cody Vassett, all those two from Houston, they were impeachment managers against Ken Paxton. They all have publicly endorsed and stood at with rallies with Paxton. So they've all come together and they say, we want Paxton. So, and meanwhile, Jazzy refuses to endorse Talarico. In fact, she called it a racist race, etc. And she actually said, she was asked by NBC News 2 days ago if she thought that he could win, and she said, the money is not there. Follow the money. And she said the Democrats are not, the DNC's not giving money to Talarico. The Republicans aren't giving money to Paxton, showing you that there's not some desperation, which means no, she doesn't think Talarico can win. And she knows that. We all do. Okay? One last thing to share with you. And that is, Talarico, remember I told you about this yesterday, the Republican moms, there's 3 of them supposedly in a Talarico commercial. 2 out of 3 of them are Democrat voters, including one who voted in the Democrat primary in 2018, 2020, 2022, and 2024, and just 2026. And these are Republican moms that are voting for Talarico in a commercial. I played it for you yesterday. It's a total lie. I have railed, and I'm trying not to be... I'm definitely trying not to be as angry as I get when I rail, because I'll go off for 20 minutes, which is fine. You probably would like it. But the State Fair of Texas, they really don't want us. They really don't want us. They do not want us coming. Because, as you recall, a thug showed up. A thug with a gun, illegally possessing a gun. He's a thug who didn't have a concealed carry permit. So he was and I think he was a felon, illegally possession of a gun. Or a minor, or both. So he's illegally carrying a weapon. He brings it into the State Fair of Texas. This is 3 years ago. I don't know. 4 years ago. Shoots up the food court. Nobody was killed, thankfully. The State Fair of Texas reaction was to ban lawful gun owners like you and me. Lawful concealed carry owners like you and me. And the nasally... I think the corporation that does the PR for the fair is out of Colorado. I think she lives in Colorado, but I don't know. The nasally leftist anti-gun woman named Carissa Candionis is still the State Fair spokesperson. And she said when they first banned our guns, she said, I want to go home, and her nasally, I want to be able to go home to my kids. In other words, Chris Kroc, as a lawful concealed carry gun owner for like 10 years now, or maybe even longer, carrying my weapon all the time, I'm the threat. And you, if you're a concealed carry, you are the threat. Even though statistics show that when George W. Bush was president, was governor, he passed it, and then they did a study follow-up 10 or 20 years later. I can't remember exactly when it was, but and the statistics show that if you are a concealed carry holder in the state of Texas, you are 12 times less likely to commit a crime. Which is why when cops pull you over and you tell them you're a concealed carry holder, they know they can be at ease a lot more than on a regular stop, because they know that you're not going to commit a crime. You're 12 times less likely to commit a crime. Okay. She looks at you and me as the threat, and it's her boss, the State Fair of Texas. They look at you and me as the threat. We're the threat, not the thug. thugs are going to be going in still, and thugs will still get a gun in. And so I'm saying all this to let you know that today the State Fair of Texas gun ban was upheld yet again by an appeals court. 15th Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed a Dallas County judge saying they're in their rights because it's being leased out to them and they're not a public entity. So just remember this. Don't ever forget this. The State Fair of Texas does not want you or me coming because the State Fair of Texas thinks you are a threat and I'm a threat. Remember this. The State Fair of Texas is not the State Fair of Texas because they don't have Texas values. It is the State Fair of California. We are a threat. Our guns are a threat. We're the problem. Thugs are A-OK. Don't frickin' go to this thing. I won't be going. You do what you want. This show has been brought to you by IRSprob.com. That's IRSPROB.com, helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategies. I will see you tomorrow.